Hello, everybody. It's Mr. Cameron. Welcome back. Hope the Easter Bunny was really great to you and that you had a wonderful, peaceful Easter break. We get to come back now and start learning about probability. Probability is one of my favorite things to teach. It helps you realize the likelihood of different events happening. So you should have your vocabulary notebook in front of you. And the first word you're going to need to put in that notebook is outcome. So go ahead and write that, outcome. An outcome is the result of an action. So for example, if I flip a coin, it could come up heads or it could come up tails. So there are two possible outcomes. An event, you should put this in your notebook also, it's a collection of all the possible outcomes. So in the case where I'm flipping a coin, the event is the collection of all possible outcomes, so heads or tails. All right, the most important thing about probability is this statement right here, okay? The probability of some event, like the probability of a coin flip coming up heads, or rolling a number cube and it coming up 6. The probability of an event equals, and it's a fraction, okay? It's the number of favorable outcomes over the total number of possible outcomes. This is the most important thing you're going to learn this chapter. Yes, you need to write that down in your notebook. Maybe put a star by it, because that little formula right there will help you with all the problems in this chapter. The number of favorable outcomes over the total number of possible outcomes. So in other words, you're flipping a coin, and let's say you win if it comes up heads. What is the probability of it coming up heads? Well, the probability of it coming up heads. That's how they write that. The capital P stands for probability, and that's the outcome right there. Sometimes they'll even abbreviate it as the probability of heads, something like that. Either way, the total number of favorable outcomes is just heads. That's just one favorable outcome. The total number of possible outcomes is heads and tails, which makes 2. So the probability of getting heads is 1/2. Sometimes they're going to have you write that as a percentage or a decimal. So as a decimal, you do 1 divided by 2, which would be 0.5. Then, of course, to write it as a percentage, you multiply it by 100, or move the decimal point 2 places to the right. And those are the 3 ways to write probability: as a fraction, as a decimal, or as a percentage. All right, so let's say I have 4 bottle caps, which I do right here. You'll see I have 2 red, a gray, and a gold, okay? So if I were to ask you, what is the probability of gold? In other words, if I mix these all up and put them in a bag or something and pull one randomly, what is the probability that the one I pull is going to be gold? Well, we go back to our formula. It's the number of favorable outcomes over the total number of possible outcomes. How many favorable outcomes are there? There's only one gold one. So that's one favorable outcome. How many total possible outcomes are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4 equal possibilities. So the probability of it being gold is 1/4. You can do 1 divided by 4 to change that to a decimal. And you can multiply that by 100 to change it to a percentage. What if I asked about the probability of it coming up red? Well, the number of total possible outcomes hasn't changed. There's still 4 bottle caps. So the total number of possible outcomes is 4. How many of them are red? 2. 2/4, of course, you can reduce that to 1/2. And again, as a decimal, that's 0.5. And as a percentage, it is 50%. Okay, they can get a little bit fancy with this too. And they might ask you something like this. They could give you a spinner and divide it into any number of parts. Pretend those are all equal. And they could label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now they might ask you, okay, what is the probability of getting an odd if you spin it like a spinner? Okay, you could land on one of those things. Probability of odd, well, the total number of possible outcomes is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many of them are odd? 1, 2, 3. So the probability of getting odd is 3/6. Can reduce that to 1/2, which is 0.5 or 50%. Okay. They might make another spinner, and they might divide it only into 3 parts. And they might put A, B. Okay. What's the probability of A? Well, here there are 3 total possible outcomes, 1, 2, 3, and 2 of them are A, so the probability is 2/3. Do 2 divided by 3 and you get 0.666 forever, and that's percentage. You multiply that by 100 and you get 66.666 forever percent. They'll usually have you round that to the nearest tenth or something, so you might need to put 66.7% because you would round that up. Okay. And every once in a while, we'll give you something like this, where they'll give you some cards. These are like playing cards. Only instead of Jack, Queen, King, they might have numbers or letters on them. So let's go with letters. B, K, E, A, and C. Okay? Then they might say, okay, what is the probability of a vowel? Well, probability is number of total outcomes on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many of them are vowels? E and A are both vowels, so the probability is 2/5. Okay. Do 2 divided by 5, you'll get 0.4 as a decimal, or 40%. Okay. What if on those playing cards they had put numbers? And this time they gave you 7 of them. The numbers were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They could say, what is the probability of less than 5? Again, there are 7 total possible outcomes. How many of them are less than 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. Not that one, because 5 is not less than 5. So 4/7. You could pop out your calculator to divide that to get it as a decimal and a fraction. That's all you need for today. Good luck.